So now that you have this wish list of spells, I'd like to fulfill my promise and teach you a spell. Now, this is going to be relatively simple, and if you've seen my anti-bullying spell, you'll understand that this is going to be somewhat related in structure. If you haven't seen that spell, I'd like to refer you to it, and while the video isn't as polished as this one, it gets the message across. But to save you time, if you haven't seen it, here's the spell. Aval Om Shivaya Ha Ata Shalom Namaste. Now that's a demo version of the spell for the purposes of just showing you the general motions. If I was actually doing that spell, and I have a topic to do it towards, a being to do it towards, notice the difference, and the difference is the quality of being. So instead of Aval Om, which is general and not directed, watch how I tune in. This is a level of presence I have, not just presence in the moment, but towards another entity, towards a being. And just so you can anchor that in something concrete, imagine a red-haired person named Eddie who is just screaming at me. And imagine I'm talking to them or at them. Because the amount of directional attention you have and the relationship of energies is a core component in your magical training. Again, if you are wanting to affect something in the internal, external world, what is it? What is the point of your magic? To affect an emotional state, to affect a person, to affect the peaceful vibration of a place you're in, whether that's a workplace or anywhere else. So this is where I'm tuning in to Eddie and doing the spell for Eddie. Aval Om Shivaya Ha Ata Shalom Namaste. And a slower way of doing that, really getting into it. Aval Om Shivaya Ha Ata Shalom Namaste. So you might have noticed a slight difference in power. The last one was a lot more powerful. You may not know exactly how, but we're looking at deconstructing the elements of power. We have intent, clarity, presence, consistency, conviction. We have these 5 elements of power. So conviction is really, really, really critically important. You have to believe in what you're doing. If you've ever wondered why magic works in some scenarios but not others, it's because likely the scenarios where it doesn't work, the person doing the magic, because magic is done, not done through you, but that's a separate vocabulary thing, may have more or less conviction. And the people where it works all the time, or like the intense gurus of Autobiography of a Yogi, they had total conviction. They knew who they were, they knew they could do this thing because they had done it many, many times before. Just like a good psychic versus a fraud or sham psychic, or a psychic who's just awakening her abilities but may not be really, really good yet. There's a different level of conviction, but sometimes it's total and absolute when she's in the zone. Same for me. So the amount of presence you have, that's another quality we talked about earlier, and presence is a little bit linked to embodiment. So if you think about the 3% of the emotional state we use for the battlefield of the bugs, you know, how much of that element is there? Well, 3% versus kill the bugs. You know, that's a lot more. It's a lot more embodiment. And so for the equation that builds up power, let's just say it's those 5 elements, and power is on a scale of 0 to 500. If your conviction level is a 3, then the highest your power could possibly get is 403 for that spell. Yeah, we are quantifying magic. Get ready, guys. So likely you want a spell that's more powerful than 403. And likely if one thing's at 3%, the others probably aren't at 100, because this stuff all goes together. A lot of foundational skills, a lot of really cool ways to measure. So how do you get from 0 to 500? Well, how do you go from curling 5 pounds to 10? You practice, you work it, you have the proper nutrition, you have the proper rest, you have the proper technique, you have consistency, you have a routine. This is a skill we're building. This is something that isn't just something that you do and it's done. This is who you are. Are you interested in, and are you becoming a magician, or do you just want to learn a trick or a technique? Well, you can, but imagine a card technique you do at a party. If you learn it once, you practice it once, you kind of succeed, and then you do it at a party, your odds of success are maybe 50-50, maybe higher, maybe lower. But if you've done that trick 1,000 times, exactly perfect, and however many times before that until it became perfect, odds are that it will be perfect the next time you do it are probably like 99.9%. So for magic, it's the same thing. And say you walk into a chaotic office or a chaotic home and you want to make it completely peaceful, you might have to do a few peace spells, somewhere between 0 and 1,000. Or you could be an extremely powerful magician and do 1 peace spell. Done. So magic is really cool, magic is really useful. One of the nice things about quantifying magic is it helps you make magic more efficient. So here's a basic spell for peace. I'd offer for you to put your hands in the prayer position and very simply state, I am peaceful now. There you go. That's a spell. How we're defining it, you're affecting your internal and your external reality. Your external reality is affected immediately because anybody who sees you doing that is going to think something. If you did it with total and full conviction, hopefully they'll think you're more peaceful. They might think you're a total goofball, depending on who they are. But we're talking about set and setting and many other factors for the equation. But that's a very, very basic spell. That's not as complicated with as much symbology and words and intent as the anti-bullying spell, but that's an intermediate level spell for you. Everything's intermediate and advanced and basic based on where we're starting off. This might be very advanced for some of you and doing what is called forth to be done. So this basic peace spell, I am peaceful now in this moment. You could say it's really simple. There's one mudra, one hand position, and there's one mantra, one phrase. And you could do that, 10, 20 times in a row. But if you really mean it, if you have high conviction, one of our 5 elements, then what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with higher power overall. If your power's 0 to 500. And so even 10% more conviction gives you a little bit more power, 2% more power if we do just the basic math, and 2% more power might be enough of a difference to save somebody's life, to prevent you from getting physically attacked, to helping an office become calmer and happier, to help raise people's quality of life and work, to help elevate your immune system. So it could also increase the quality of people's work and their output and the likelihood of the company succeeding at their job. What is a spell for success? If you have this big thing and you want to affect 2 billion people and you're one of those folks who have these big visions of the world, maybe we'll make it 2 million and keep it all right, keep it accessible. If you're in a company and you want your endeavor to be successful and affect 2 million people, that peace spell might be an incorporation, maybe just a letter of a much larger phrase or series of phrases or even book of a spell that is the success of the initiative of that company. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at a little bit of vocabulary and definition, and I don't want to get too hung up on it, but if you think of say baseball, swinging a bat, you could say that is a sports action, playing sports, playing baseball. You can also say a whole game of baseball is also playing baseball. So we're using the word spell very loosely. It is a thing, just like swinging a bat is a thing, but it is also something that can be part of a larger thing, like playing baseball can be part of a larger thing of 5 seconds of time to say even 5 hours of time all at once. So considering this spell, this focused and intent transformation of your inner and outer worlds, I'd offer for you some homework. I'd offer for you to practice your spell work, practice your magic with your I ams, and to rate them. Rate where you start in the level of conviction for magical power elements of that I am. Say, peaceful, I am peaceful, or maybe we've used that a lot, so we could say, and I'll give you a new phrase to work with. I am excited and confident. I'm going to be an incredible magician, Shun, and not take myself too seriously. And so maybe that's your first spell, and maybe it's a bit of a blooper. That's okay. It's not 0% power, maybe not 500. So you do it again. And you shift your emotions a bit. You do that I am, maybe silently. I am excited and happy and looking forward to being a powerful magician soon. Now that spell had a bit more of an effect. That was an affirmation that had way more effect than just writing that sentence out 500 times like the 1980s New Age thought leaders would say, here's how you do affirmations. This is a level of power that's significantly above that because it is more embodied, because in part it uses your physical body. And if you don't have as much use of your physical body as I'm giving an example of, then you can visualize these actions and they'll have the same effect or modify as is right for you. So people have become unparalyzed through magic, and part of my audience I know may be of that life scenario, so I want to work to teach for all people of all bodies, of all scenarios. So I encourage you to practice 50 spells, and you can practice 1 or 2. We're being very traditional here. Get them as good as you can. Your other bit of homework is a little bit of research. Write out those 5 qualities, map those 5 qualities, and just start thinking about them. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you in your next video.